Okay, hello fellow classmates, my name is Harrison. You probably know that we've been in school now together for a full semester if you weren't here last year. My topic is why, or what is, or should we romanticize history. We're going to talk about what romanticize means, history, what it means, and some examples. So romanticize basically means, as you can see, it's basically to describe something in an unrealistic fashion, so to lie, not tell the truth, and or to make something seem better than it is and disregard the negative aspects of something and emphasize the positive. Here's an example. Here's a cigarette ad. It's showing celebrities and former athletes from the past and disregarding the negative health aspects of it and just showing the positives, that you're cool, that you can be like them, anything kind of like that. The brand is Chesterfield. Here's another example of a Big Mac. You see the commercial, you see a 4.5-inch tall burger, you see a large fry with fries oozing out of it, you see a big drink, and you want to go to McDonald's and that's what you want to have. That's what you want to spend your $6 on so you can bite into that. But instead, you walk to McDonald's and you bite into it and you look at it and you're disappointed just like DJ Khaled over here. You look at and you don't know what happened. You bite into it, that's not what you expected. It's 2.5 inches tall, where's the 4.5? You need an extra 2 inches, you didn't get what you wanted. So you've seen two examples now of what romanticize means with the Chesterfield cigarettes and with the Big Mac. But why is history important? What is history? Why should we learn it? Why does it even need to be talked about? Because, you know, it's a valid question in terms of the presentation. So the first reason is it's a core course in school. We learn it, it's a class, there's one. The second is the pros and cons. It helps us dictate our decisions and opinions. So we weigh the pros and cons. Plus, it's also nice to know you kind of want to be the guy who's smart. So Vincent van Gogh is the first example. He's a famous painter who painted Starry Night, as you see to the bottom right, and his ear was chopped off. Most people think he did it himself. Mike Tyson didn't bite it off, even though the picture shows it. So he's a famous painter, and people think he cut his own ear off. But that's not true. His roommate, Paul Gauguin, who was big into fencing and had many swords, during one of their fights, just being friends and fighting, he actually cut his ear off, and they used the cover-up story that Van Gogh was mentally ill so he wouldn't have to go to jail. Another example is Abe Lincoln. The common belief is that the Union, more specifically Lincoln, was thoroughly against slavery, and that Lincoln was a strong, heavy abolitionist, and that he was completely against slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves. That's completely wrong. Lincoln wasn't at all an abolitionist, yet alone a heavy one. He actually said, as you can see the quote there, "If I could save the Union without freeing the slaves, I would do it." So Lincoln wasn't at all a heavy abolitionist. Another example is the space race during the 60s between the USSR and USA for who could orbit the Earth and then get to the moon first. The USSR sent Sputnik first, which rotated the Earth first before the Americans did. It actually wasn't a race at all. JFK, in a journal they found, actually admitted to being glad that Russia had reached orbit first before they had, because he thought if the Americans did it first, it would be viewed as a threat to other countries' security. And the fourth and final example is Paul Revere. You probably heard of him, his famous lines, "The British are coming, the British are coming." Famous columnist, he did his midnight ride in April of 1775. But why is Paul Revere actually revered? So it's simply because of his name. He was actually one of 40 riders that rode out that night in that small little town. And he's no different from them in terms of what he did. It's simply because of Henry Longfellow's poem, His Name Rhymed. That's the only reason he's remembered and put on stamps. He did nothing special. So in terms of American history, who's responsible for, romanticizing American history? Is it teachers? Is it students? Who is it? Is it some little clan that just changes history just because they want to? So the first person responsible is actually the interpreter, meaning the person who is taught the information, who receives it. You have primary and secondary sources. Primary would be here, the Declaration of Independence. It was written in the time period of the study, and a world history book written after the time period of study. The second is teachers. So teachers, even though, they put in hard work, unfortunately sometimes brevity or being brief has to come before teaching the full story, and that can leave out facts that help dictate opinions correctly. So solutions to stop romanticizing history would be aware of the source. Where's the information coming from? Don't believe fake news from Twitter, stuff like that. And educators, be sure to tell the whole truth, not just a small side story, because half the story is almost just as bad as not telling it at all. So thank you for coming to my Ignite. Raise your hand if you learned something new. Woo! Erasing the admission, I'm not taking this.
Fake history.
Awesome.
Learning on the fly.